Have you ever felt like you were trapped in a maze with no way out, where every path leads you to an invisible wall, while the other person, the one holding the map, just smiles as you struggle in desperation? You try to understand them, you compromise with their unreasonable demands, you sacrifice precious parts of yourself, and yet instead of being met with love or appreciation, you find yourself growing smaller and weaker under their cold gaze. If that sounds familiar, if you've ever lain awake wondering why you feel like you're slowly losing yourself, then pause for a moment and take a deep breath. Because chances are you're not just in an ordinary relationship. You're caught in a psychological game, one orchestrated by a narcissist who pulls the strings, while you unknowingly become the puppet they never intend to let go. I understand that pain, the suffocating feeling of realizing that every ounce of effort you've poured in has only been used to inflate their fragile ego. They do not love you in the way you deserve to be loved. They don't seek genuine connection or heartfelt intimacy. They crave control. They're intoxicated by power, obsessed with keeping you orbiting around them like a planet trapped in the gravity of a sun that only burns, never warms. But what happens when you open your eyes? When you dare to rip off the shiny mask they wear and confront the raw truth behind it? I've walked beside hundreds of people who once stood exactly where you are now, thinking they could never escape. And I'm here to tell you, you absolutely can. In today's video, we will uncover the layers of manipulation written in the Narcissist playbook, those subtle psychological tactics they use to suffocate your emotions and keep you dependent. But more importantly, you'll learn step by step how to flip the script, break free from their control, and reclaim your life. This is not just a clinical breakdown of narcissistic behavior. This is an awakening journey, a path to personal freedom, a call to awaken the strongest version of yourself, the version they never wanted you to discover. If you've ever felt trapped, if you've ever questioned whether escape is even possible, don't go anywhere. Stay with me till the very end, because every second you spend here today is a step closer to breaking those invisible chains. And if your heart stirs as you hear these words, if you have your own story to tell, I invite you to share it in the comments below. I'll read every word because your voice deserves to be heard. Subscribe to this channel now and join me on this journey, because you are not alone and the light is waiting for you just ahead. 1, total no contact. The most powerful strategy, the most effective strategy is total no contact. And this is not a gentle suggestion. It's a life-saving imperative if you truly want to reclaim your life from the narcissist grip. Don't text them. Don't call. Don't scroll through their social media hoping to find signs of regret or a genuine apology, because I promise you, all you'll find is a new mask they've put on for the next act. I understand the temptation. Your heart still beats when you think of them. Your mind still lingers on questions like, what if I explain one more time? Or what if they really have changed? But hear me, I've seen hundreds of survivors try to escape, only to be pulled back in by that very hope. Every text you send, every call you make, every like on their post is another invisible string you hand back to them, allowing them to keep pulling you like a puppet. No contact is not just an action, it's a declaration that you are no longer their emotional supplier. Imagine the narcissist as an addict, and your attention, your reaction, your presence, that's their drug. When you disappear, no explanation, no goodbye, no trace, you take away their most prized possession, control. This throws them into chaos, like a child whose favorite toy has been taken away. They will rage because their bloated ego cannot handle the reality that you walked away from the orbit they created for you. I once worked with a client whose ex bombarded her with hundreds of messages after she went no contact, starting with sweet pleas like, I can't live without you, and escalating to, you'll regret this. But when she held her ground, not responding, not even a single word, he eventually lost his grip and disappeared. Their confusion and anger are not signs of love. They're proof that you've hit their Achilles heel. Their dependence on you to feel worthy. Going no contact isn't easy, I know. You'll face days of emptiness, nights of longing, and the temptation to return for closure. But let me tell you this, closure is something they will never give you. They'll only offer more lies wrapped in false promises designed to pull you back in, turn your silence into a weapon. Block their number, delete them from your socials, and if needed, change your habits so they can't reach you. In one case, a client even changed her work email to stop receiving manipulative messages from her narcissistic ex, and that decision marked a turning point in her healing journey. You don't need to explain, you don't need to defend. Your disappearance says it all. They may growl, they may bait you, but when there's no reaction, they're left facing the very void they've always tried to escape. You are stronger than they ever thought. And now is the time to show it. If you've ever tried no contact and experienced their reaction, share your story in the comments below. I'm here to listen. And don't forget to subscribe, because you deserve to live free, not another day as their prisoner. To apply the gray rock strategy, if you still need to interact with them because of children, work, or any unavoidable tie, don't try to be a hero or a martyr. A narcissist will never appreciate your sacrifice. They'll simply see it as another opportunity to exploit you further. Instead, become a cold machine, an impenetrable steel wall that does not react, does not get provoked, and leaves no emotional cracks for them to seep into. I understand how it feels being trapped, unable to completely cut off contact, and every encounter with them tightening your chest, flooding your mind with a storm of rage and helplessness. But this is not the time to give in or let them drag you back into their manipulative vortex. You may not be able to avoid them, but you can take away what they crave most: your emotional energy. Narcissists are emotional vampires, feeding off your tears, arguments, even your fear. And when you stop giving them blood, they become confused, hungry, and slowly lose power. Practicing the gray rock technique is the key, a method I've seen transform the lives of hundreds who are forced to stay in contact with narcissists. Respond briefly, neutrally, coldly, like a gray rock, emotionless, colorless, uninteresting, leaving nothing for them to cling to. They say, "You must hate me, right?" You reply, "There's nothing to say." They provoke, "I know you can't live without me." You respond, "Think whatever you want." No arguments, no explanations, no tears, just dull, lifeless replies that sever the energy supply they need to manipulate you. I once worked with a mother who had to co-parent with her narcissistic ex-husband. He constantly mocked her as a failure to provoke her. And she learned to respond only with, "I'll send the pickup schedule by email," nothing more. At first, he raged and tried harder to provoke her, but over time, his efforts dwindled when he got nothing but stone-cold silence. That's the power of gray rock. You don't give them the fire to burn you. This technique requires steely discipline, and I know it's not easy. You'll have to swallow your anger when they insult you, suppress your pain when they twist the truth, and resist the urge to set the record straight. But every time you react, you hand them a small victory, a dose of ego fuel. They want you to scream, cry, or beg because it confirms they still control you. Don't give them that satisfaction. Imagine yourself as a stone statue in a storm. They may howl and rage, but they can't shake you. One client of mine, working under a narcissistic boss, stopped arguing and began simply replying, "Yes, I'll do it," emotionless, detached. Eventually, the boss lost interest, unable to feed off fear or frustration anymore. You are not emotionless because you're weak. You're emotionless because you're strong, because you choose to protect yourself instead of being their prey again. If you've ever tried the gray rock method or are struggling to implement it, share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you've handled it. 3, letting go of ego. Letting go of your ego is not a sign of weakness. It is a profound inner strength that frees you from the game they've designed. And this is the core truth that a narcissist never wants you to realize. They want you to believe that walking away from the battle means you've lost, that surrender equals defeat, that it proves you are smaller than their inflated ego. But I'm here to tell you the opposite. Letting go is not weakness. It is the bravest act you can make, the key that unlocks the prison of psychological control they've kept you trapped in for far too long. I understand the pain, being drawn into a rigged game where every move you make is calculated by them, where every reaction is weaponized against you. You may have believed that winning, proving them wrong, forcing them to admit fault, or seeking justice was the only way to escape. But the truth is, in the world of a narcissist, there is no real victory for you, only endless cycles of manipulation where they always hold the upper hand. You don't need to win, you need freedom and peace, and that begins the moment you choose to set down your ego and walk through the door they never expected you to choose. Imagine the narcissist as a deranged director in a theatrical play. They write the script, assign the roles, and control every spotlight. You are the lead actor, not because they love you, but because they need you to keep the performance going. They provoke you to argue, they hurt you so you'll cry, they blame you so you'll defend yourself. Each of your reactions is a scene in their drama, a dose of supply that feeds their fractured ego. I once worked with a client whose narcissistic partner constantly mocked her just to extract a reaction. She spent months arguing, trying to prove her worth, only to end up exhausted and doubting herself. She believed that defeating him would set her free, but the more she fought, the more empowered he felt because she was still playing his game. Narcissists don't care about truth or justice. They care about keeping you under control, and every time you try to win, you unintentionally hand them more power. Letting go of your ego doesn't mean you're accepting defeat. It means you're refusing to play by their rules. They want you to fight to prove your value, but your worth doesn't depend on their recognition. It lives within you, in the peace you choose to protect. I saw this truth transform another client's life. A father who was blamed by his narcissistic ex-wife for abandoning the family, even though she was the one who had been unfaithful. He spent hours writing emails trying to clarify the truth, but she used every reply to further smear his image. When he chose to let go, no longer replying, no longer defending, and focused on caring for his child and his own healing, she lost the energy supply she needed to keep attacking. His silence wasn't surrender, it was a quiet, powerful liberation from her fabricated narrative. You don't need to prove anything to them, you only need to prove to yourself that you deserve to live freely. But letting go isn't easy, I know. It requires you to face the pain of letting go of hope that they'll change, that they'll apologize, that they'll finally see your worth. It means walking through the fear of being misunderstood, misjudged, or labeled as weak. Narcissists have planted the belief in you that your value is tied to their reaction, that if you stop fighting, you'll become nothing. But that is the greatest lie they've ever told. Your value is not in their hands, it's in how you choose to rise, how you choose to stop being their puppet in a game you never agreed to play. I once worked with a woman who was being smeared by a narcissistic coworker. Instead of defending herself to everyone, she stopped explaining, stopped engaging, and focused on doing her work. Eventually, her calmness made his pettiness obvious, and she found peace without needing to win. True inner strength comes from recognizing that you don't need their validation to live well. They want you to believe that walking away is weakness, but in psychology, letting go is a sign of emotional maturity, a demonstration that you've placed your well-being above cheap manipulations. Try this. Every time you feel the urge to react, pause and ask yourself, will this bring me peace? If the answer is no, walk away. One of my clients used to write out her angry messages on paper instead of sending them to her narcissistic ex and then burn them. With every flame, she felt lighter. You don't need to defeat them. You only need to defeat the urge to keep playing their game. They will be confused when you let go because they won't understand why you've stopped chasing. They may get angry, try to lure you back with sweet words or threats, but when you remain grounded, they lose their grip. Letting go is how you reclaim control, not by fighting, but by refusing to fight. You don't need to win in their eyes. You need the freedom to breathe, to live, and to rediscover yourself after all the years they tried to smother your spirit. 4, collect and document all evidence, messages, emails, threatening behavior. This is not just a casual tip for self-protection. It is a strategic move, a sharp weapon you must forge in advance to defend yourself against the brutal attacks a narcissist may unleash in the future. Don't assume they'll stop when you go no contact or finally let go. For some narcissists, your silence is a slap to their inflated ego, and they won't hesitate to escalate the battle from psychological manipulation to more dangerous, even unlawful actions. I understand your pain. You're exhausted from constantly being on guard. Your heart bleeds every time you reread toxic messages or recall their threats. But now is not the time to grow soft or hope that they'll just disappear. Narcissists are like wounded predators when they lose control. They will lash out even more viciously to regain power. Evidence is your shield, the only thing that will keep you grounded amid the storm, both psychologically and legally. Imagine the narcissist as a predator lurking in the shadows, waiting for a chance to strike back. They may smear your reputation in front of friends, family, and colleagues with intricately crafted lies. They may spread malicious rumors on social media. Worse, they might threaten you with sensitive secrets you once trusted them with. I once worked with a client whose narcissistic ex-husband threatened to release private photos unless she withdrew her divorce filing. Thankfully, she had saved those threatening messages, and her lawyer used them in court to protect her. Without those words in writing, she could have been pulled into a spiral of humiliation and helplessness. Evidence is not just a legal tool, it is the anchor that keeps you from being swept away by their lies. The way you assert your truth when the world seems to fall for their masterful manipulation. So what should you do? Become the investigator of your own life. Every insulting message, save it. Every email containing threats or blame, screenshot it and store it. Every odd behavior, from them unexpectedly showing up near your home to harassing phone calls at night, document the time, place, and details. I once advised a client working with a narcissistic boss to record the demeaning comments made during meetings. She used a phone app, and when he tried to smear her reputation to upper management, those recordings saved her job. Never underestimate small details. Even a single "you'll regret this" could ignite a legal case down the road. Store everything in a secure place, an external hard drive, a hidden email account, or entrust a reliable friend. Because narcissists might try to erase evidence if they suspect you're preparing to stand up. Why is this so important? Because narcissists don't just want to control your present, they want to rewrite your future. They will revise history, paint you as the villain, the abandoner, the irresponsible one, while portraying themselves as the tragic victim. I witnessed a heartbreaking case where a mother was falsely accused by her narcissistic ex-husband in court of neglecting the children just to gain custody, even though he was the one constantly absent. Thankfully, she had a diary noting every time he skipped visitation and messages where he mocked fatherhood. That evidence turned the tide, and she was able to keep her children with her. Without it, she could have lost everything to his smooth lies. Evidence doesn't just protect you in court, it protects your spirit from being twisted by their fabricated narratives. I know this isn't easy. Every time you open those messages or listen to their threats, you relive the trauma. It's like reopening a wound that hasn't fully healed. You might ask, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to live like I'm on the run? I understand the injustice. You don't deserve to suffer another second. But this isn't running away, it's building a fortress around yourself. You're not collecting evidence to live in fear. You're collecting it so you can stand tall when they try to drag you down. In one case, a client was threatened by her narcissistic ex, who said he'd get her fired. She saved emails he had sent to her coworkers, and when he acted on his threat, she used that proof to report him to HR and shut his scheme down. Evidence is the power you hold. It's how you say, I am not a victim you can crush easily. Do this with steel-like resolve, no emotion, no hesitation. Narcissists will be bewildered when they can't provoke a reaction anymore, but they will truly panic when they realize you're no longer the naive target they thought you were. They may try legal threats, gossip campaigns, or even fake apologies to make you lower your guard. Don't fall for it. Every piece of evidence you collect is a brick in the wall that protects you from their retaliation, and if they cross the line, do not hesitate to consult a lawyer or contact the authorities. One of my clients used a voice recording of a threat to get a restraining order, and that changed everything for her. You're not gathering evidence just to defend yourself. You're doing it to remind yourself that the truth is yours, not theirs. You are stronger than they think, and this is how you prove it. If you've ever used evidence to stand up to a narcissist, or if you're currently trying to start, share your story in the comments. I'm here to listen and support you. Subscribe to this channel to discover more strategies to protect yourself, because you deserve safety, not another day in the shadows of their control. We've journeyed together through a challenging path from recognizing the manipulative games of a narcissist, cutting the invisible strings with silence, turning into a gray rock to shield your soul, letting go of your ego to find freedom, to gathering evidence as a weapon against their vicious attacks. I know you're exhausted, perhaps carrying scars they've left behind, but hear me. You are not the helpless prey they want you to believe you are. Narcissists don't love you, they love the power they wield over you, and every step you've learned today is a blade severing that cord of control. They'll panic, they'll rage, they'll try to drag you back. But when you stand firm with clarity and resolve, they'll eventually run out of fuel, leaving you with the most precious thing: peace. You don't need to defeat them in the war they've constructed. You only need to conquer yourself, breaking free from the psychological prison they've held you in for far too long. This isn't the end, it's the beginning of a stronger version of you. Your silence is power, the evidence in your hands is justice, and the courage to let go is the key unlocking the door to freedom. If you've applied these strategies, or if you're struggling to start, share your story in the comments below. I'm here to listen, to walk with you. Subscribe to the channel today to continue this journey, because you're not alone, and every step you take is proof that you deserve to live, to breathe, and to be loved in a way they'll never comprehend. Stand up, because the light is waiting for you ahead.